Hello and welcome. In this video, you're going to get a quick start guide on how to make money with music in the library or stock music industry. I'm going to go through exactly what stock music is, where the money comes from, the types of libraries, what a good library music track sounds like, how to use titles and keywords, some technicalities of submitting tracks, and we'll talk about which libraries you should actually write for. Stock music, library music, production music, background music, whatever you choose to call it, sometimes gets scoffed at by composers, as it can be seen as lower quality, generic, boring music. But that's not the case at all. In fact, some library music can be some of the most creative, inventive, and incredibly well-made music around. It has to be, if it's going to get placed on programs or adverts that are going to be broadcast nationwide and even internationally. It can also be a really great way for you to make a living as a composer, offering you a great income, the ability to manage your own time and work output without the pressures of tight deadlines that you might find when working on bespoke projects, while still being able to be creative and, at the end of the day, to make money with music, something you love creating. And the best part is that, regardless of where you're at in your composing journey, there's probably a suitable platform for you to start with. Although I've said that some library music is the best produced music around, there's also a whole world of more budget library music tracks that still need to be good, but can be a great avenue for you to practice with and make a bit of cash from. So what is library music? As I've said, it's sometimes called stock music, production music, background music, or library music. And the clue to what it is lies in the name. Just like a public library has a whole collection of books ready for you to walk in, read, and borrow, a music library has a whole collection of music ready for people to listen to and borrow, except borrowing the music comes with a variety of usage terms and at a fee. So it's basically music that is in stock and ready to go, as opposed to music that needs to be composed specifically for a certain project, like when a composer is hired to write the music for a film. It's great for production companies, TV studios, marketers, and content creators, as they can browse the library, find a piece of music that they like and that will work on their project, and purchase a license to use that music immediately without having to go through the whole process of onboarding a composer, writing a brief, and then the back and forth from having to have bespoke music written. It's a huge time saver for them and often a lot cheaper than hiring a composer too. And now you might be wondering how you get paid as a library music composer. Well, there's a whole variety of business models in library music, but the main two are the royalty-free model and the music publisher model. A royalty-free library is usually an online platform that acts as a marketplace for composers. Probably the biggest two are Audio Jungle and Pond5. In this model, the composer creates whatever music they think will sell, registers their account, and uploads the music to the platform. Most libraries have some form of quality control, some stricter than others, and if your music is approved, it will then go live on their website. Once it's live, people can search on the site, and if they come across your music, they can buy a license, allowing them to immediately download your tracks and use it on whatever project they choose. You take a certain percentage of the sale, while the marketplace takes the rest. Generally, the people using these libraries are on lower budgets, so that might be YouTubers, digital marketers, solopreneurs, wedding videographers, or corporate video creators. The quality of music on these sites is often seen as lower than the more exclusive music publishers, although not always, but the price to license the tracks also tends to reflect that viewpoint as well. Your income from this type of library is usually limited to the actual purchase fee. You're not likely to get any further payments in the form of performance royalties. A performance or broadcast royalty is a payment that's due to you when your music is performed or broadcast in any format that is subject to performance licensing. So, for example, if your music was placed on a TV show broadcast on network television, the network pays an annual fee to a performing rights organisation and is responsible for declaring that your music was used in that TV show. The performing rights organisation then allocates a certain amount of money to you for that usage. And that's where working with the music publishers can become a really amazing avenue for composers. The music publisher model is usually an exclusive model. Once you've agreed for a music publisher to stock your music in their library, you're handing over the right to use that music. So you can't use it yourself anywhere else, and you can't submit it to any other libraries. That sounds like a bad deal, right? But it's not, because these libraries are going to work a lot harder for you to get your music placed on better projects and you'll get paid in two ways from these libraries. Firstly, when a company chooses your music, they'll pay a synchronization fee to use in that one specific project. Unlike the royalty-free library, it's usually not a blanket license where they can use your music on whatever project they want going forward. It's for a specific project, so maybe one single episode of a TV series. Should the same network want to use that track again, they'll have to buy another license for it, usually. You normally get 50% of the synchronization fee, and then your music publisher takes the other half. And these fees are a lot higher than the royalty-free fees. For trailer music, which is one form of library music, the sync fees for a major Hollywood trailer can be in the tens of thousands of dollars, so big bucks. The second way you'll get paid is in performance or broadcast royalties that I mentioned before. Every time the licensed piece of music is performed or broadcast, you are due royalties forever. So all of the music you're creating basically becomes passive income once it's in a library and being used. The more you write, the bigger that passive income will become, while you also still be getting the upfront sync fees every time it's used as well. Many composers make over $100,000 a year on performance royalties alone, but the catch is that it can take quite a few years before those royalties start coming through, so you need patience. Obviously, definitive financial figures are really hard to define with library music, as it varies so much on the quality of music you can create, the types of libraries you're working with, and how good you are at promoting yourself to new libraries, and how quickly you can create quality pieces of music to submit for libraries. As a really broad number, if you're working with a high quality music publisher, you should be aiming to compose at least one really high quality track per week. If you can do that consistently for 3 to 5 years, you'll be making a healthy income from library music. Those are your two main library types: royalty-free, where you're focusing on high volume sales at a low cost for a small upfront fee, and music publishers, where you'll be creating higher quality music focused for bigger upfront fees and long-term passive income from performance royalties. Now, what type of music should you be composing? In truth, pretty much anything goes. That's the beauty of library music. It's used in such a broad range of projects that there really is a place for almost anything, from classical music for art shows aimed at the older generation to heavy metal used in a tattoo show. That's to use two super generic and really stereotyped examples. Sorry. That said, you do need to learn how to write music that's focused towards specific moods and that can be easily edited and manipulated to fit behind scenes of any lengths with or without dialogue and sound effects. And you also need to learn to create multiple versions of your own tracks, including 60, 30, and 15-second versions, beds, loops, stings, and bumpers, which I'll talk about in another video. You'll also need to learn how to use titles and keywords effectively too. By figuring out exactly who might be buying your music, you can learn to write titles for your tracks that catch their attention and will make them more likely to use your music. Thankfully, if you're working with a music publisher, they'll handle a lot of those technicalities of keywords, tags, and metadata on your behalf. But if you're working with royalty-free libraries, you need to figure out what people are searching for, the kinds of words they'll be using, and how you can make sure your track shows up when they search for those words. Here's the secret. To feature at the top of a library's search ranking, you need to make sure that when someone puts in a specific keyword, they click on your track and buy it. That's it. If you're making money, the library is making money. So if you can prove to them that your music is sellable and well targeted, they'll happily put you at the top of the list. Not because they like you, but because you're making them rich. So after all that, the question is, who should you write for? And as with almost anything in the creative arts, it's not an easy answer. Who you should write for really depends on what level you're at and what your goals are. If you just want to keep writing your own music and you're still learning how to compose and mix, but can already put together a great sounding track, and you think it would be great to make some money on the side, then maybe the royalty-free model is best for you, where you don't have to stress too much about really writing towards a specific brief, and tracks that aren't of an absolute top quality can still get through the review process and sell well. But if you're serious about trying to make music your full-time living, and you can compose and produce amazing sounding music that is already at the same kind of production quality as music you hear on TV, then the music publisher route might be for you. It can take a bit longer for the money to start rolling in, but if you focus on consistently outputting high quality music that fits whatever brief the publisher is asking for, then the income can be amazing. Of course, You can make lots of money from royalty-free libraries, and there are plenty of people doing that. Personally, I'd say the best is a balance across both models. Diversification can be a really sensible approach. I know some composers that focus purely on big music publishers, others that focus entirely on royalty-free libraries, and some that work across both. It's whatever suits you and your type of music best. A final word of warning though, you do actually need to be able to compose and produce good tracks already. Yes, if you browse the Audio Jungle's library, you'll find some pretty naff tracks on there. But if you look closer, you'll also see that they have 0 sales. Go and listen to some of their best sellers to get an idea of the level you should be able to write at, or at least aim for. And if you're not quite there yet, and be honest with yourself, spend some time working on your composition and production skills. It's very easy to get much better very quickly with some focused practice and the right tutorials. Okay, so you now have a good overview of how the library music industry works and how you can make money with music. This is just big picture stuff for now. We'll get into a lot more detail in future videos.